the common misunderstanding maybe with the digital marketing is that being like its own beast. It has some nuances, it has some differences, right? But in a nutshell, it's more of another distribution channel. So when I think about different channels, you cannot start developing them unless you know your place in the market, unless you know your place in terms of competition, unless you know who your customers are.
So when we talk about channels, do you mean like different platforms? Like, is Facebook a channel, or do you mean something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or like, whole digital marketing can be a channel in its own, right? We can go for PR stuff, or like, again, PR is more an activity, right? So digital marketing in this sense, it's less so of a, I would say it's just like a different approach.
Welcome to the Financial Frontiers podcast. My name is Dinos. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share this channel. It helps us create more content and deliver more episodes for you.
Another episode on the Financial Frontiers podcast. I always start the podcast. It just happened like that. I haven't scripted it, but it just naturally comes like that. Here's another episode. So Anton, I'm gonna butcher your surname, so our Anton, thank you very much for your time. Welcome to the Financial Frontiers podcast, where we discuss all things related to the industry we're involved in, that is the financial services market, the financial services industry, and general topics, entrepreneurial, marketing, whatever it is, all relative. Thank you very much for your time. Our discussion today is going to be mainly around your expertise, which is digital marketing and perhaps some, let's call it parallel professions or topics, let's call it. Looking forward to this discussion. Anton, thank you very much for your time. Please introduce yourself and let's get into this.
Thanks for inviting. I'm happy to be here, and you being one of the people to step up in the industry and start something like this and open up the floor for discussions. It's a wonderful thing. I'm Anton Sokolov, marketing manager for Brokerage Solutions. A technology provider, B2B technology provider for retail brokerages. We service them with different products like social trading, BAM, liquidity bridges, and a variety of risk management plugins and newly introduced protocols for prop trading firms. But yeah, it's just basically everything to do with technology which helps you to optimize your business in a way you want it to work.
Yeah, so I had your colleague Victor in one of the earlier episodes where we did speak about Brokery and its products. And actually, you surprised me before this interview where you've expanded, Brokery's expanded to 70 people, which is freaking great. Congratulations on that. And you, I think, were one of the first employees, right?
Not one of the first, but when I joined, the company was about 20 people.
Okay. Well, yeah,
I joined when the company was 6 years old. So the company had a few years before me.
Okay. Well, I remember when Brokery started, it was around
2013.
2000, yeah. I was going to say 2014. Yeah. I remember those early days.
Well, it was end of 2013. So yeah.
Okay. So Anton, tell us about your background. What did you study? And obviously Brokery, I think, has been your first job. That's your first move after your studies. Please give us a background. What did you study, and how did you get into where you are now?
Well, yeah, I started studying back in Russia. I'm originally from there. I started studying for oil refinery. So I'm a certified oil refinery technician. I know how oil works and what kind of ingredients you should add to it so it becomes stable and eco-friendly for Europe export or for Russian market, whatever. But I always knew that, like me coming from a family which had a lot of entrepreneurs or like everybody was doing something either on their own or like leading some of the projects. I always knew that I will end up in entrepreneurial business administration side of things. And marketing just happened to be one of the avenues which allowed me to combine both my creativity and the interest of, operating the businesses and how the products are created. Yeah, so after the college, I entered Finnish University in Finland and in Lapland, where I studied for BBA with like specialization in international business.
BBA?
Business Bachelor of Business Administration. Like you have MBA and the one before that is BBA. And during my studies, I signed up for a double degree program and went to Riga for second bachelor, let's say, which was more in line with like small and medium size like business administration. So it had more like finance, more how to work with teams, how to establish businesses, and just for for laughter, me and my classmate from Riga, we established a like small agency, digital agency in Riga to help companies with digital marketing. Just because like us being younger and us being interested in those topics from the get-go and like working some of the part-time jobs here and there, we wanted to expand into this kind of services, and that's where we started. And after that, so I had some experience before I came to brokery, so I didn't come as complete newbie, right? And then after I finished both universities, I applied and got recruited by brokery.
Okay, and so you started a recruitment agency, digital marketing agency. Sorry, not recruitment. Digital marketing agency, and obviously you must have done some jobs, I guess, for businesses that gave you some kind of an insight. And based on what you're telling me, this was around 2016.
I think that's exactly
2016. Right. Okay, and so obviously, digital marketing has changed since, and it's an ever-changing landscape, I believe. Let's hear a little bit about digital marketing. And I want to dive into that topic a little bit, and perhaps some, let's call it, different strategies around digital marketing that businesses can apply to, obviously build brand and I guess, convert customers, get leads, whatever it is. And maybe we could start this question because, the old school method is, I put an ad in the paper, pay many thousands of euros for it, or in a magazine, billboards. I think things change. Digital marketing is a very different, whole different beast. And so would like to hear some of your insights here. And how do you do it for brokery? Let's go with that. Or perhaps maybe we can start on how, how has it changed on what you were doing in terms of digital marketing with your business when you set out and your service, and how has that changed in terms of, I guess, platforms? Where is it, where do you get your best bang for your buck, right? If I want to choose to promote myself on Facebook or LinkedIn or TikTok, where does it make most sense? I think, let's start off with what is the strategy? How do you approach digital marketing? How were you approaching it and offering it as a service back then? And how are you doing it now in brokery?
No, that's a great question. So the common misunderstanding maybe with the digital marketing is that being like its own beast. It has some nuances, it has some differences, right? But in a nutshell, it's more of another distribution channel. So when I think about different channels, you cannot start developing them unless you know your place in the market, unless you know your place in terms of competition, unless you know who your customers are.
So when we talk about channels, do you mean like different platforms? Like, is Facebook a channel, or or do you mean
Yeah.
something? Okay.
Or like, whole digital marketing can be a channel in its own, right? We can go for PR stuff, or like, again, PR is more an activity, right? So digital marketing in this sense, it's less so of a, I would say it's just like a different approach. You need to think differently about it. And again, coming back to, you have to understand your customers, and you have to understand who your clients and what they actually need and what their interests are. Because usually when we think about social media or like, digital marketing, we think about them being online, doing something else in the background, or vice versa. It's rarely so that people are fully focused on the activity at hand when it comes to digital operations. And coming from that kind of thinking, there are, how do I put it? How do I put it to not confuse everybody? So you need to think about that. Like usually when people start thinking about it, hey, social media, we need to be entertaining. We need to go for memes. You can go there, yes, but it's not necessarily what your clients want. And that's why there's so many misunderstanding and such a slow adoption of, let's say, TikTok or like new platforms, which are more about engagement and more about conversation and communication from the older generation. When they think about them, they're like, we need to do silly TikTok dances? No, we have seen plenty of different projects. We have seen doctors giving advices on TikTok, and it worked. It works for different niche, for different businesses, for different levels of commitment in the industries.
Okay, so I think I understand the gist of the point that you just mentioned, and maybe I can give it in a different perspective, and maybe an example. So when we talk about the digital marketing strategy of any business, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person who's consuming that content at any given moment in time has to be specifically navigating on the internet related to that exact topic.
Mm-hmm.
You could capture someone for, let's say you sell cookies, right? And you could go long tail and search, get into the feed or reel of somebody who might be browsing funny cat videos. I don't know. So it's just this dynamic of not being too strict, if I understand correctly, with regard to the demographic that you're focusing on. And there's this, sweet spot of not getting too broad with regard to the audience that you target, and not getting too narrow because then it obviously limits the audience. And so there's this sweet spot, and I guess this digital marketing is this almost like a science, like where you really need to analyze the data and try and test different strategies. And it's not kind of binary, I want to, I sell Nike, I want to sell people who are interested in Nike only. No, it could be, somebody who may have some other, goes to the gym, or I'm not a marketing guy, right? But if I understood correctly, the niche, digital marketing gets a little bit, let's call it tricky. It gets a bit complex, or the strategy, I guess, can be very different between different organizations. And there is no one size fits all approach. You got to try it out and test different audiences that might be attracted to a product that's not even related to the audience, that you targeted.
That's exactly right. But again, I don't like to think about digital marketing or any other channel as being a science, or like you trying to beat the system, because usually it does lead to companies trying to recruit specialists who are trying to hack the algorithm, who are trying to understand what's behind the platform and how to get attention. They're just coming from the wrong places. You will get more attention if you're authentic.
Got it.
And if you are speaking to your clients and you are trying to, give them the information they need, try to solve their problem, try to entertain your niche amount of clients, your target clients, and then everybody else will pile up on top because of similar interests, similar ideas, and algorithm working for you. So I'm not that pro hacking the algorithm. So that's why I try to maintain all the science around the business and marketing strategy on the part of market research, market placement, differentiation, this kind of part, rather than focusing on specific channels, because it's just frustrating. It's too time consuming.
Let me ask you a question. This has just come to me now, right? Everybody keeps talking about the algorithm, this big algorithm. What is this digital marketing algorithm? And if I had to sit and ask that question to myself, and maybe I should just, end my question there and let you, answer it if I've explained it properly. But let me build a bit of context and I'll ask it again. So everybody talks about the algorithm, right? Well, there's different algorithms. Google has its own. Facebook has its own. TikTok has its own. Instagram, I guess, is similar to the Facebook one. And then when we talk about algorithm, it's just what these companies have built around how to get the most relevant ads to the right people at the right time. And so a bit of a kind of a gray area when we talk about the algorithm. There isn't one single algorithm, but I think, what is your take on the algorithm? You just mentioned authenticity always wins. Is that across the board? And when we talk about the algorithm, how can you give us a description of what this algorithm is, in digital marketing? What is the algorithm?
You are exactly right. Each channel, each platform has their own algorithm, and each platform has their own, business objectives. Some of them want to genuinely help customers get the information they are looking for. Some of them are looking for to boost user, client engagement and just make people spend more time on the platform, as in the case with Facebook, let's say. And this is actually this. What led to the scandal, I'm not sure if you're following it, but in SEO world, search engine optimization, right? With all the AI, with the rise of AI helpers, let's say, and AI enhanced search, we ran into a place where companies or these platforms, they're trying to move forward and they try to establish new processes. And in some cases, just, showing up a list of companies, here you look for your answer, might not be ideal for some of the questions, right? Some of the questions you just want a straight answer right up. And AI can help in this, right?
Yes.
You don't need a company to write a blog post about, I don't know, what potato is. No, you just need to source a definition from, I don't know, dictionary, right? In some cases, you don't need that. But because people, because so many companies were trying to optimize for the algorithm, they were trying to get their piece of a pie, thinking that there is a pie, right?
Right.
They ran into a problem where with the latest March update of or introduction of new algorithm for Google, quite a lot of bloggers or I don't know, SEO specialists and their projects which were abusing those practices of algorithm. They were not thinking about what Google wanted to show. They were thinking about how can we trick Google to show us. And all of them got banned.
Right.
And if you open up any forum around SEO topic, you will see lots of negative reviews, lots of, just an outrage, an outcry of people who lost their traffic. They had 10,000, daily visitors, and overnight they have 0.
This hit my radar. Actually, I was reading an article, I can't remember how long ago, but it was recent, and I don't even remember where I saw this. Mm-hmm. I was reading feedback. So obviously I don't follow marketing. I don't it's not my field of expertise. But this article that came across my radar, I read one of the comments, and then I saw the sentiment was the same, where this user commented and said, Google's latest update for bringing up in the top page, based on whatever keywords or search term you've added into Google and hit enter, since Google's update where they've applied AI to bring results, has apparently, by this user and in many people who agreed with it, has given really bad, the results are not really relevant, or they're not as quality or good as they were before the AI adjustment. Where in the way Google was doing it before, with indexing, the most common keywords, backlinks, or whatever it is, these guys who have understood SEO optimization to the full, according to these users, the results before were a lot more valuable, to the point where they were looking for something specific, and the top results were very relevant. Now that has become less, the quality has dropped, apparently. I personally haven't seen a change. I search on Google as it was working for me before. The results that it brings, I'm happy with them. But I've also shifted my thing to ChatGPT, where a lot of, I prefer to have a conversation around, give me the answers. I don't want to search. Give me the answers as you have the data. And so, is that what you're referring to? So this AI change, okay.
That's the exact algorithm update. So basically it removed from the SERP, or like search results.
Search engine, SERP, yes.
Results.
Whatever it is.
Page, I think.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to know it. But they removed all the black hat SEO gurus, let's say, and the businesses who relied on those practices. They also got hit, which, I mean, is a bad thing, but in the long run, I'm pretty sure they'll fix it. And maybe there were some bad decisions on Google's part, because this algorithm, it entailed, with this algorithm, they also signed a deal with Reddit, where they bought Reddit's data, or got access to all Reddit's data. I think like 10 billion USD.
Jeez.
It's cheap considering the amount of posts and interaction on Reddit. And now if you look for certain topics, you will see more Reddits or more forums pushed up to the top.
That's interesting.
Which is in some for some topics it is a good thing, right? When you're looking for information, you are looking for social proofing. You need somebody else to explain it in layman terms for some cases.
And Reddit was a great platform,
and
it still is. It's a good place for...
Yeah. So in this case, these changes, in the long run, they will be better, right? Because you don't need brokery to write a piece about, I don't know, what PAM is. We still did it back in the day. But is it our place to explain it to you, unless it's our proprietary technology, or unless it's something very specific, or we need to convey it? But do we need to write this description?
In my humble opinion, I think yes. Because even though PAM is, it's not something that has been a term coined by brokery, or invented by brokery, but brokery has a product, and any business, right, has a product related to that specific solution. Well, yeah, I mean, I think it does make sense for the business to talk about it. So, for example, you could be a wine seller, and have wines that you haven't created yourself, but you can certainly speak about it. Just an example that came to my mind. I think it does make sense for brokery to speak about it. Now, if you manipulate, if you do it with the intent of hacking the SEO algorithm, then I guess maybe that backfires. I don't know, maybe it backfires. But if we talk about DGM, sure. I mean, I think it makes sense to blog and talk about topics that are not really invented. On this podcast, we speak about a lot of topics that are not created by us or proprietary to DGM, right? But why not have that conversation? Because many other businesses will. And I'm not so sure if AI or the way search engines change based off of, you shouldn't really be talking about topics that are not really proprietary to you. I'm not too sure.
I'm not saying they should be proprietary, but I'm saying that for your business sake and for your branding and your positioning in the market, it would be better if you would be speaking about specific topics and creating your own niche. But when we start to think, okay, we provide PAM, we can write about PAM, let's write about PAM. But if a trader searches for PAM definition, we should give them different definition than if the brokerage is looking for PAM solution to introduce a service.
Okay.
And right now, there is no way for you to distinguish. So we, as a business, have to write multiple different versions of the same concept for different search intent, where we think, okay, if a person writes, what is PAM? Is it a trader writing? Is it a broker writing? Is the broker writing who wants this? Is it a broker writing who doesn't know about it? Like, do we need to speak about opportunities? Like, it too much, and I'm not sure if it's what we have to do. We have to speak about our advantages.
Sure.
We have to speak out our value to the customers.
I think there's also a flip side here. I would, because you just hit this, you touched on this topic. There's so much content out there, and you don't know who's posting it. When you're reading a certain blog or some information, you're getting some information from the internet or Google or YouTube or whatever. And let's say we're talking about PAM. I'd much rather, let's say I don't know who's authentic, to follow and knows about the subject matter. But I would much rather hear about Brokery talking about PAM, or these third-party providers who know it, as opposed to some person who has no clue, and then they get on and they just talk about PAM and they just don't know. This is just an example, and it gets really dangerous, especially around medical stuff. So health, dairy's bad. No, dairy's good for you. You've got calcium. What about your gut health? Well, there's so many different carnivore. The carnivore diet's the best. The carnivore diet's the worst. What do you believe? And I honestly don't know who has that. In X Twitter X, that blue check mark, right? I think that's like an authenticity thing. So. Validation, I guess. So I'd rather hear about Brokery's take on PAM than some random person that doesn't know, I think there is, that's important as well.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If we are the ones in the business of, let's say, PAM solutions, we can speak about it. But if, let's say, another player from our industry is in the same industry and they don't have it, they don't have the expertise, but because of the search, trying to optimize for the search, trying to optimize for keywords, trying to, gain more exposure on those keywords, they will start writing some generic stuff. And that's why you open up the, Google, and you see lots of articles about the same from different providers. Like, would you think that brand is better than, let's say, Brokery?
Yeah.
You wouldn't know unless you are in the industry, right? So in this sense,
and so that boils down to, I guess, the strategy around digital marketing is really important. You could be the best of the best of the best, and if you don't have a digital marketing strategy, it would be a shame, because just because somebody knows how to do digital marketing but is talking, let's say, 51% false, that's not good, Okay.
Oh, and the other thing about the algorithm, it did kick out, or it did disturb a lot of informational navigational keywords, but all the commercial ones are working fine. So for us, because our website is optimized for commercial part, we haven't seen any
decrease in performance.
Yeah, it didn't affect us at all, just because we are optimizing for that's what we were doing from the beginning. We never believed in hacking the system. That's not what we do. If we are not able to develop or create consistent create quality content consistently on the platform, we won't be doing it. Are we missing out on the opportunity? Yes. But do we have to be there? No. As long as our overall marketing strategy and our approach to the market and conversation within the industry stays relevant to us and our niche, it's fine. We don't have to be on all the platforms. We could, yes, but if we go there, we would need to be more specific to the platform. And we can dive into the topic of content distribution, but I think
that's a big one.
There are lots of different moving parts, but that's what I'm saying. Don't think about digital marketing as hey, everybody is doing it. Which platform is now popular? We're going for that one. Mm-hmm. No. Mm-hmm. Just find one platform which speaks to your heart. If you can write good post, go write. If you can speak, go speak. If you, good on videos, go record videos. If you are shy and you're not well spoken, just, do something else. Do research.
Voice, whatever.
Yeah. There are different outlets and there are different platforms for you. And don't worry, your customers will be on all of them. You don't have to be on all of them.
Right. Makes sense. So, I guess digital marketing is one thing that's perhaps casting a message to potential customers, perhaps some branding, or in very broad kind of description what the aim is there. But then we also spoke just before our session recording here about gamification, which I think, in my mind, gamification is more related to retention. But yes, let's start this conversation about gamification. That's the main topic. And then, as we know, gamification can be maybe misunderstood in context by different people. Let's hear your definition of what is gamification.
There's a great, I think it was on TED Talk. There's a great piece called Gamification is Marketing Bullshit.
Okay.
So partially marketers might be responsible for the whole gamification and misuse of it. Gamification is very interesting topic because it's all around us, and in some places, or in some interpretations of it, we might not even think of it as gamification. But gamification is basically introducing game-like features or game-like functionality to your services. So gamification is, by its nature, is distant from gaming industries. Let's say gambling, casinos, e-gaming. It's not related to that. It's taking good practices from those industries, or from board games, from, hide and seek games, which are very offline activities, right? Getting best practices from there and introducing them in your services for different objectives. It doesn't have to be just client retention.
Let's start with, I guess, an example. Give us an example of gamification, and then that's going to open up, different questions. So, give an example. Can you give a real life example of gamification?
The very on the surface gamification stuff you could think of would be, in fact, loyalty cards. You go to the store, you can get a loyalty card or a voucher, a stamp card. This is a gamification. You're buying something, you're getting points, and then it doesn't necessarily improve loyalty or your loyalty to the brand, but it might move, encourage you to go there once more, just to get those bonuses which are piling up. And it works for some types of for certain types of people who are collecting them, and you will be going frequently to the same stores, to the same brands. Do you start believing in what they say? Not necessarily. You just you're fine with their products and you are coming back because of the features, right? Because of the bonuses.
So the way a loyalty program works, and my understanding here is you give your customers an alternate, or let's call it a parallel motivation that generally increases sales and commitment to the brand or service. And so, like loyalty programs, just as in a game where you got to progress through levels, and the more points you get, or the better, the more you're upgraded as a character, the more perks you have, and that's part of the game. So gamification, games, the term comes from games. There's obviously a framework, and you've got an end goal, and the way the games are built, and the successful ones, there are small milestones and achievements that you get along the way until that, let's call it end goal, or maybe it's an indefinite game that just continues with you upgrading yourself. Call of Duty, for example, there's levels, and you get prestige level, and then that opens up access to different guns and whatever it is. And so that concept, you go and you blend it into whatever service it is, and then as your loyalty points increase, then you get more perks like discounts on different items, and maybe some, VIP access to an event. And is that the idea?
When you started speaking about games and Call of Duty, I realized that the badges system and leveling up system in Call of Duty is basically gamification of the game.
That's interesting.
Because those elements are, in fact, elements which increase your...
Yeah, because the game is get into the, for example, multiplayer, kill as many people as you can, and that's it. Whoever wins.
That's the game, yeah.
But then they've added this gamification to the game.
To get you back and to maintain the base of players
interesting.
on the servers.
Okay.
So the games themselves nowadays are using gamification elements. So when we start opening up the terminology, there's so many misunderstanding, and in most cases when people think about gamification, they will be thinking just in terms of okay, it's a loyalty, like points, badges, stickers, whatever, right? Kind of achievements. But when we get back to what defines a game, we also run into multiple problems. And the closest you can get is that the game, the term I was asking you before we started recording was paella, right? Which pronounces completely differently.
Oh, paella.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why they decided to transcribe it as is in English. But yeah, this term, which comes from ancient Greek, refers to playfulness or play in sorts. And in games, it will be referring to free-form gaming, where you are not restricted by any rules. You do whatever you want. Like, you are completely immersed into creativity. You are coming up with your ideas. You get a painting book, and you start coloring it all the wrong colors. It's just your expressiveness, like you are just expressing your creativity on the paper. This is paella, right?
Well, paella, the direct translation of paella is children.
Yeah.
That's what paella is, children.
That's it.
Yeah.
And the second part of it is ludus. Again, I'm pretty sure it's completely different in original terms, but that second concept, right? It relates to rules. And when we think about rules, we don't necessarily think about games. We think about laws,
yes,
all the, driving rules and everything else, right? It's not game-like. But when you look at any game, there will be rules.
Yes, of course.
There will be rules. Board game, there will be rules. So rules are also an intrinsic part of the game. Thus, in gamification, introduction of certain constraints, objectives, is also a game, or game-like features.
Yeah. Okay. And just trying to think how I can introduce gamification into my services. And, you really need to be creative around that, right? You got to be creative. You got to have a proper understanding about, exactly what gamification is, all of this that you're saying. And, I guess it's very powerful, and we as you mentioned, we have it all around us. It is very powerful in terms of keeping your customers close to you. So let's then talk about our industry, right? Because there could be kickback, right? Because if you add a form of gamification into trading, right? You're a brokerage and you've got you offer trading services, and we know trading is risky. Don't trade more than what you should, whatever it is. It can get a little bit risky if your gamification is so good that you create an addiction. Could there be like addiction? So if we speak about gamification on Best Secret. Best Secret is an app with clothing, right? Branded clothes. I go on there quite often. There's points. I get this VIP status when I buy a bigger basket and a bigger basket, and I mean, how bad can it be for me? Obviously, if I go obsessive and I spend all my money on there, then that's a problem. But how dangerous can it be? Actually, it relates to that too. If you go and you spend all of your money because the gamification is done so well, then, but regulation around Best Secret is not as strict as it is for our industry, the brokerage firms. So applying gamification around brokers, let's first go with the question is, are any brokers, to your knowledge, currently doing it? And what is your take around the risks of it?
So gamification, as correctly put, can influence customers' decision making and their actions on the platform. And the best source of gamification-related regulation or risks around that, the best source would be FCA actually. When last year, I think in November last year, no. It wasn't last year. Oh my God. It was 2022. It was 2 years ago.
Time flies, Anton. Time flies.
They introduced, they came out with a statement about gamification. And their statement was based on a series of research from different researchers. And one main one, which was, a basis for the statement, where they were exploring the effects of gamified environment on traders and investors, how they basically operate, right, on their decision making. And they, in fact, did find out that some gamification elements can be very dangerous, as in they're reinforcing, reinforcing over trading, they're reinforcing overconfidence, they're just reinforcing wrong habits, let's say. And this is where I see lots of mistakes in our industry, where instead of applying gamification more neatly, there are still lots of places where gamification actually been present for ages and nobody just thought about it as gamification. Let's say social trading. You have a leaderboard. It is a gamification element.
Right.
You're ranking up based on certain parameters. And even if you're not ranking up, you're introducing peer-to-peer evaluation.
And prop trading.
Prop trading is a beast on its own. We can reserve some time for it.
There's an evaluation. You pass phase 1. You pass phase 2. You meet a certain criteria. You get into the fund. That's gamification.
Yeah. Prop trading is a gamified service in its own nature. You're leveling up. You're going through a list of objectives, which are corresponding to Ludus, right? And you are entrenched into the gamified service. So there are multiple ways. And getting back to the FCA part, what they at least what caught their attention were in fact some very alarming practices, where traders were congratulated after opening up a trade. Come on, right? To an extent, but. Congratulating that you opened up a trade. It just reinforces different parts of you. And some of the features were, in fact, much closer to gambling, let's say, because they were introducing, as you said, some addiction-inducing functionality. Another part was that basically what they found out, that gamified services, out of those 4 main brands they were researching, they found out that investors who were engaged into gamified environment, they tend to overstay. So their selling price would be higher by quite a bit, actually, by like 6 to 10% from the price which they intended to close on a trade, just because they were like, if I stay longer, and they would be they would start trading other instruments based on, let's say, best moving symbols for the past week, right? Does it say anything to you? No, it's past information. It's stats to look, to look at. It's like you shouldn't base your decision on the past performance, right? Especially when it comes to stocks, where you have to evaluate future earnings rather than looking at how the stock was doing 3 years ago. And basically, they would be introducing more symbols to their portfolios without, researching the underlying asset and all the trends and trying to understand what's happening. So it basically reinforced the wrong habits.
How interesting. And over here, we're talking about these different examples, right? Something that's coming out to me over here that in terms of understanding it based on this conversation, where we compared, the gamification process of a prop trading firm versus some gamification application that's added onto a brokerage model. And so in my mind, if I had to break it down as follows, if by definition the service or offering has the gamification built into it, then that it is what it is, right? As opposed, so for example, in prop trading, to get to a funded account, you need to go through a process of passing evaluations, right? That's gamification. But there is no other way to define that service, and so that is what it is. As opposed to brokerage firms, if you've got your gamification process linked to incentivize more trades, then that's a problem, because your trading activity shouldn't be based on some loyalty points that you'll get because of your trade. That is not linked to efficient, sophisticated trading. And so I'm fully with us. And I'm sure this is what the FCA was talking about. Okay. Let me ask you a question. How can a broker apply gamification that doesn't impact their trading activity, which could, shouldn't be the basis of their decision at all on any trade? How can a broker apply gamification with the purpose of providing value to their trader that doesn't harm them?
Yeah. There are multiple ways to do so, right? We have seen ways to introduce gamification without affecting current performance retrospectively, right? With the case of Spotify Wrapped. At the end of the year, you get a series of stories like cards saying what kind of artists you listen to, how many minutes you spent listening to music, what your listener profile, either you are, adventurous person who is always on lookout for new bands, or you are the one who's staying loyal to the other ones. And this is something they send out once a year. Once a year, you see your results. So this in itself makes you want to be with Spotify for a longer period of time. So you can also get this kind of information, statistics about you, and share it with your friends. But it doesn't reinforce.
It's not going to change what music you listen to.
I mean, some people by their nature might be interested to hack, the algorithm and, to try to work up to specific points. But in my case, I just started to listen to music more. Again, music is much more much safer place to be in than trading. So that's one of the examples, right? Introduce gamification retrospectively, but again, explore what kind of trading profiles they prefer, what kind of symbols they traded, not what they should trade, or what are the hot stocks right now. Avoid those. And then another part is, what did I have in mind? Oh, and of course, if FCA is concerned with reinforcement of bad practices, why not we shift the view to reinforcing good practices? Introducing, setting stop loss on every trade you open up. Is it a bad thing? No, it's not a bad thing. We see multiple regulations where it's mandatory, as in the case with French regulator, Singaporean regulator. It is a place. It's a common practice, but some of the traders are not limited to it, and that you giving points, or you congratulating a trader, or introducing a checkbox or checklist with set up a take profit, set up a stop loss, do some kind of homework before you open up a trade. It will be a gamification, but it will be much more ethical one.
That's so interesting. It's just opening up so many ideas here. That's awesome. Okay. I guess also around education, right?
Exactly right. Duolingo is the best example of game. It's the worst example and the best example. They're doing so good that they annoy everybody. But again, you can gamify your service to an extent. They just overdid it in some places. But
I'm trying to learn Spanish, and Duolingo has told me, yes, your Spanish is getting moldy. Only because I didn't, log in for 3 days. Your Spanish is getting moldy.
But right now,
that's so bad.
Nowadays it just became a meme. But but yeah, it is a gamification used for good. You are, in that case, I think you can actually pay them for to maintain your streak, right? So they have some shady practices in there. But gamification around education. Lots of brokerages introduce educational centers where they just share PDFs of how to trade. But does it give you anything? And then when we look at prop trading, why it one of the reasons why it got so big, right, was that they have education entrenched in them. Their approach to education, because some of them were actually coming from educational service providers, right? It's just different. So in this sense, introducing restrictions and objectives, I'm not saying that all of them and all of the challenges are good and build beautifully, but you can use that functionality to reinforce good habits and say that, hey, maybe you need to risk less. Maybe you need to show us stable performance. Which challenges are there for, right? You show us stable performance, staying within risk management rules, and you're good to go.
So, the Spotify example that you mentioned, that is good. It gives profiles you as a trader and just gives you some statistics, let's call it. And that helps, it definitely helps. It helps you stay, is motivated the right word? Or, at least it keeps trading exciting.
It keeps you engaged.
Yes.
You are thinking about what you're doing. And then, again, if you're a smart trader, and usually another concern of FCA was that gamification usually lures to people who are new to trading, who are new investors. They don't know better. And that was confirmed by them. Basically, in their sample size, they had, or a sample group, they had people who had some experience with financial, either through education, bachelor's and masters, or through working in the sphere, versus those ones who are not, and the ones who didn't have any previous experience with the industry or like with the complex terminologies. Just like when you open up a brokerage account, they have to give you a certain survey to verify or like to evaluate your knowledge about complex trading systems. But with us working in the industry, we can pass this kind of service without an issue. Do we know how to trade? No. I mean, like, you knowing how to pass a survey, you knowing all the answers doesn't get you there. And this is one of the problems.
Yes.
And I mean,
that's the appropriateness test.
Yeah.
That's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
So on this topic, I can definitely say about the enjoyment of it definitely adds enjoyment. Gamification does add enjoyment to whatever it is. So I've started playing golf, right? And before I discovered this app, I enjoy the game quite a lot. I'm very, very bad. It feels like the more I practice, the worse I get. It's such a difficult sport.
That's called a learning curve.
Yeah, it's so freaking hard.
You'll get that. You'll get that. No worries.
I'm also, your body after 45 years has reached a certain, agility level, and I do stretches and whatever. Anyway, so this Hole 19, which is an app. You link it to the phone. I can see how far I hit the driver. It's just added so much enjoyment to the game, and I think why not? The takeaway, I guess, over here around gamification is it can be good. It can also be bad, and there are some risks around it. And I guess as a consumer of different services and products that you have, I guess it's good to have a conscious a mind around what is this gamification layer, how is it impacting me.
And there's another thing you mentioned, enjoyment, right? And this was actually one of the criteria which was used to measure gamification or like to classify it, and they defined enjoyment as the lack of negative experiences, let's say. On something like that, something along the lines. And another part which also contributes to this is ease of use. So in their papers, in the scientific papers I read about the topic, they introduced ease of use or usability or user friendliness, right, as a part of game or like gamified service. So in this sense, I actually wrote a short article a while back for Finance Feeds about comparing gamification and democratization of trading, because both of them can be connected through the easiness of use, and those were one of the some of the examples on FCA's part as well, right? Robinhood got popular because it's an easy to use application where you're one click away from any instrument you want. Is it a good thing? It's debatable, but it is what some of the regulators also consider to be a gamification.
Right.
So making a complex environment for your traders will make you seem more serious or more professional. But again, is it something we want? Is it something our users want? And introducing simpler and more straightforward UI and UX will also get you there. It's just a matter of you understanding what your clients want. Do they want gaming, or do they want trading? Are they professional? Are they newbies? Lots of avenues.
Yeah, I guess there's also many different layers and examples around this exact topic. I think, and this is just my opinion, right? Having a good UX and UI, I think just makes sense. Why make someone's life super difficult with regard to finding some function within a trading platform? And why not make it a nice experience? But then when you talk about the binary options days, right? So that was full on gamification. There were bells and whistles and ding, ding, ding and bling, bling, bling and pops and fireworks and bullshit. I'm sorry, but I mean, it's just the truth, right? That's not, I guess that is going a little bit more overboard, right? than what is necessary. And so, yeah, I mean, definitely an interesting topic. Kind of a post digital marketing strategy where a business can apply gamification to increase their loyalty, I guess, and their customers' retention. I'm certainly myself gonna look at, how can I apply gamification in a respectful, in the DGM world, in a humble way, Anton, if you believe it or not, we've been here for an hour.
Wow.
It goes quick, right?
Yeah.
It's just not looking forward to going outside into this heat. It's gone freaking hot.
I think tomorrow is going to be 40 degrees.
40?
Yeah.
Yesterday was 45.
Oh yeah, then it's going to be more. I think tomorrow is going to be the hottest out of 3 days.
Oh crikey, it's going to be. And then see you at the expo.
Yes, IFX Expo.
At the IFX Expo next week. So, was there any other topic that maybe you wanted to discuss over here? We've closed in on an hour. Maybe we can do some closing comments, or maybe I've missed something in terms of an interesting topic.
Just since I'm curious, and I'm genuinely passionate about the gamification side, because it's part of building your product, and it's part of building your product for the right kind of people. There is one thing which we can dive into, like different classes of all different types of players, different types of how customers can be divided into different ones, because different groups require different functionalities and are enticed by different things. But yeah, as closing thoughts, gamification is there anyway, whether you want it or not. It has been there, and it is there. It's just a matter of, are you utilizing it properly, right, or you just introduced it because it was on the surface and you're like, we can introduce point system. You might not need it. And guess what? Social aspect, or like chatting, community, is also can be considered a gamification.
Explain that a bit more.
Again, based on the types of players, there was a research, I think back in 1969, 62, 67, back in
very
70s.
long ago.
Yeah. Butler. He introduced 4 types of players, them being the explorer, the achiever, the socializer, and the killer. And based on the statistics back in the day, the majority of players were socializers. They were interested in multiplayer. They were interested in communicating, get your, farming simulator on Facebook. You can go and help your friend water their plants, and you get some bonuses for your own development. This is also part of strategy, right? And introduction of chatting between traders, or community, because signal sharing community is quite big in our industry, right? And this is what actually prop trading latched onto. They, if you look at all the prop trading firms, they're heavily linked with Discord communities. This is what their thing, right? And this is also part of gamification. You exchange your ideas to benefit your progression on the challenge, to benefit your progression in the game or gamified service. So back in the day, Butler, he found out that 80% of people were those, right? And
players,
yes. But again, everybody of us is a player. It's just not that you are one type. You are a combination of all 4.
And so back then, players were what was he analyzing? Exactly?
Monopoly. I have no idea.
Okay.
Okay. But again, these kind of practices still can be applied, right? Achievers, they might be they are enticed by collecting badges. They are enticed by ranking up their points. Killers, they are interested in player versus player. They want to compete, and they want to overtake the adversaries or like opponents, right? And get the first place on the leaderboard and become the best signal provider ever, right? There are different ways. What else? Explorer, right? They're interested in exploring. For them, if you're introducing like, hey, trade daily or like fill in all the checkbox. Basically, there are multiple different features you can come up with when you start thinking about your customers in this way as well. Because this is, at the end of the day, what will be influencing their interest in your product. And if you're introducing leaderboard because everybody has to have a leaderboard and your clients are interested in chatting, then it's just going to be a mismatch of service to value proposition, right?
So how does one assess? Like, let's say, how can you know what your audience wants? It's just, I guess, maybe run a poll or some kind of an A/B testing, maybe.
It's a matter of having an open discussion and open conversation with your clients, trying to understand their needs and having a constant feedback loop. If you understand where like your place in the industry, if you understand your place in competition, if you understand your clients, you will be in a good spot for the long run. If you're trying to hack the system and utilize gamification for the sake of it, or like to reach or like to amplify your revenue, you can go for it. But most likely these kind of projects are short-lived, either by their like bad business decisions or by regulators slamming down on them.
You know what I just thought of? That I have already actually applied gamification in my company and I didn't realize it.
Okay.
It's reporting.
Yeah.
I give them a report. We're working on it actually. So many tasks closed, so many critical issues resolved, whatever, just like a dashboard with pie charts and just a nice, visual. That's gamification.
It can be considered gamification.
There you go. I've already done it.
It's everywhere. When you start thinking about it more generally, rather than, hey, gaming, let's introduce farming simulator on MetaTrader. Let's not.
That doesn't work.
That's
a bad idea.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like there are good ideas and bad ideas, and you just need to navigate them. To
100%.
navigate them, you need to know your customers.
Very insightful, Anton. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure speaking with you.
It's always a pleasure talking with you too. Let's do some closing comments. Where can the audience find you, speak with you, engage with you?
I've been quite proactive on LinkedIn over the course like during this year. I'm just writing up my thoughts, which you might have heard here, or some upcoming ones. All ideas, I usually go there. And
Anton Sokolov.
Yes. Or at the next big expo of the industry. Most likely I'll be there.
You attend those always. Good. Anton, thank you so much for your time. It is a wrap. I enjoyed this conversation very much.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Remember to hit the like button. Comment down below if you have any guests you'd like me to interview and any topic you'd like me to discuss in future episodes.